So it's called Warwick Long Bay, which is a place in Bermuda, which is interestingly the exact opposite side of the world to Perth. So I became interested in that kind of myth about what is on the other side of the world, and I found out that the almost opposite side of the world from Perth is actually Bermuda Island. It's actually just off the west end of Rottnest. If you were to sort of go out 200 metres and then down 20,000 kilometres, you'd pop out in Bermuda. So I became interested in this idea about the other side of the world and what you might find if you went the furthest away from home. And so I started to gather all of the evidence I could about Bermuda, and I bought all of the guidebooks and all of the travel guides and all of the postcards, and I bought the souvenir t-shirts, and I bought everything I could and collected all this data about Bermuda. And so that drawing came from an image that's on the fronts of one of the guidebooks to Bermuda. And so I started to try and find if I could become familiar with this place through creative practice, through actually drawing and gathering all this evidence about this place called Bermuda. And in the end I actually ended up going there on another project where I decided to go to Bermuda and back on an unknown itinerary. And so I travelled without knowing how I was getting there or back on this journey. And then the idea of the fact that it's got the title of the place, Warwick Long Bay, written back to front, is kind of that idea as if you were looking through the world, what would you see? Would you see the back side of Bermuda or the right side of Bermuda? And it comes from my printmaking practice, which is where things are often reversed. And so that idea of having this title back to front on the face of the work, as if you'd gone to the other side of the world. When I ended up in Bermuda, I was just travelling around this relatively small island, and I was on a bus sort of taking me around the island, and I suddenly recognised this location from the drawing that I'd done. So I quickly jumped off the bus and found this particular rock where the original photograph had been taken from. So in a way it was a drawing about trying to find out what it would be like to be in that place, and then eventually a year later I got to the actual place. The work's actually made, it's a drawing, but it's like a back to front drawing. So instead of starting with a white piece of paper and drawing with a black medium, which is a lot of the other works you see in, I guess, that space that the work's shown in, it's actually done the wrong way around, so back to front, in that I start off with a black background and then I actually wipe away the black in order to bring the whiteness forward. So I kind of like that way of everything about it I wanted to be back to front, so it's like making an image from this sort of blankness. I guess that particular work then generated a whole lot of other works around this idea of the other side of the world, and that when I did the trip around the world without knowing where I was going, I took a big roll of paper with me that was sort of this high and 30 metres long, and every day I stopped and just did a 1 metre rubbing of whatever kind of linear meterage that I was at. So I ended up sort of gathering this sort of horizon line that went around the world from the west end of Rottnest all the way to Bermuda and then back to the west end again of Rottnest. I've more recently revisited this idea of the antipodal or the opposite side of the world, and I've been proposing another adventure to two other antipodal points. There's not many antipodal points in the world because the world's covered with a lot of ocean, and the next two I'm aiming for have got two quite prominent lighthouses. So the works that I've started in my studio now are sort of revisiting this process in this work, where I'm starting to find out as much as I can about these two opposite sides of the world, of which I've been to neither of them. Whereas I guess this work came from the familiarity of home and its opposite, whereas now the new works are both completely different places that I've never been to. One's in New Zealand and the other's in Spain. So that's where the next series of works are coming from.